Old bikes weren't built for comfort, they were built for the ride. Steel tanks, raw engines, kickstarts, and character you could feel in your bones. These machines proved themselves on highways, racetracks, and back roads long before electronics took over. In this video, we're counting down 10 classic bikes that modern machines still can't beat. Bike number 10, Honda CB750, 1969. The original superbike that still outclasses modern machines. You've probably heard the saying, newer is always better. But when it comes to motorcycles, that's not always true. Take the Honda CB750. Released in 1969, it wasn't just another bike. It was the world's first true superbike. And here's the part modern marketing doesn't want you to know. This classic still does things better than many modern bikes, costing 3 times as much. At the time, the CB750 shocked the world with its inline-4 engine. Today, inline-4s are everywhere, but back nobody was mass-producing them for everyday riders. Honda gave you 67 horsepower, 44 pound-feet of torque, and a top speed over 120 miles per hour, numbers that embarrassed many bigger, pricier European machines of the era. Even modern middleweights like the Yamaha MT-07 or Kawasaki Z650 can't claim to have changed the industry the way the CB750 did. And let's talk about durability. Modern bikes load you with sensors, electronic rider aids, and software that costs a fortune to fix when it breaks. The CB750? Simple, air-cooled, carb-fed reliability. With basic tools in a garage, you could rebuild most of it yourself. Owners often report these bikes still running strong after 50+ years with minimal fuss. Try saying that about a touchscreen-packed modern sport bike. Here's the kicker. Honda priced the CB750 affordably. In 1969, it cost about $1,495, roughly $12,000 today. A fraction of what British and European brands charged for slower, less reliable machines. Even now, restored CB750s command respect in the collector's market, often selling for $15,000, $20,000. That means if you bought one back then, you not only enjoyed decades of performance, you also made money compared to the depreciation-heavy modern bikes. So what's the lesson? Don't get blinded by marketing jargon like ride modes, assist electronics, or AI-adjusted throttles. The CB750 proved that solid engineering and rider-focused design outlive gimmicks. If you're hunting for a classic bike today, you'll find that the CB750 still offers a ride that's thrilling, approachable, and mechanically honest. Something modern bikes often forget. Think the CB750 was impressive? Wait until you see the next pick. It's smaller, lighter, and in some ways, even more rebellious, proving that raw character can beat modern polish any day of the week. Bike number 9, Yamaha RD350, 1973. The two-stroke rebel that still smokes modern rivals. If the Honda CB750 was the polished gentleman of the motorcycle world, the Yamaha RD350 was the bad boy who didn't care about rules. Released in 1973, it quickly earned the nickname the Giant Killer, and for good reason. It was small, light, and ridiculously quick. Even today, it exposes the myth that modern bikes are always faster, smarter, or more thrilling. On paper, the RD350 didn't look like much. A 347 cubic centimeters two-stroke parallel twin, making around 39 horsepower, doesn't sound scary compared to today's 600 cubic centimeter sport bikes. But here's the truth. The RD350 weighed just 352 pounds. That gave it a power-to-weight ratio that rivaled much bigger bikes of the time. In real-world terms, this little Yamaha could embarrass 750 cubic centimeters and even 1,000 cubic centimeters machines off the line. Riders often recall leaving heavier British twins and early Japanese 4s in the dust. Now compare that to modern bikes. Yes, a Yamaha R3 or KTM RC390 has more tech and cleaner emissions, but they also weigh more and feel muted thanks to stricter regulations. The RD350's raw two-stroke hit, a sudden surge of power around 6,000 RPM, delivered a rush that modern entry-level bikes simply can't match. It was unpredictable, wild, and demanded skill, which is exactly why enthusiasts still call it one of the most exciting motorcycles ever built. Maintenance? Surprisingly simple. 2 strokes had fewer moving parts than 4 strokes, meaning easier rebuilds. Riders could swap pistons or rings in a weekend without special tools. Try doing that with today's liquid-cooled, fuel-injected, sensor-heavy sport bikes, It'll cost you more in diagnostics than the RD350's entire rebuild. And here's a hidden truth. The RD350 was one of the first bikes to offer front disc brakes in its class. That might sound basic now, but in the early 70s, it was cutting-edge safety tech. Yamaha understood something modern manufacturers often forget. Give riders lightweight control, not just big horsepower numbers. Value-wise, RD350s are climbing fast in the collector market, often hitting $7,000, $12,000 depending on condition. And that's for a bike that once sold new for under $1,000. Meanwhile, modern entry-level bikes lose 30–40% of their value the second you roll them out of the showroom. So what's the lesson here? Modern motorcycles might be cleaner, quieter, and easier to ride, but in taming them, manufacturers also stripped away the raw, addictive thrill that made bikes like the RD350 legendary. Bike number 8. Kawasaki Z1, 1972. The muscle bike that redefined performance. When people talk about the birth of modern superbikes, the Kawasaki Z1 always comes up, and for good reason. Launched in 1972, it wasn't just fast for its time. It was a performance revolution that left competitors scrambling. And here's the kicker. This 50-year-old classic still puts many modern machines to shame. At its heart was a 903 cubic centimeters DOHC inline 4, producing 82 horsepower, numbers that made jaws drop back then. In fact, it was the fastest production motorcycle in the world, topping out around 130 miles per hour. Today, bikes like the Kawasaki Z900 or Yamaha MT-09 may be quicker on paper, but they owe their entire existence to the blueprint the Z1 created. What really made the Z1 special was its balance. Many modern sport bikes chase insane top-end power at the cost of usability. The Z1 delivered speed and reliability in one package. Its smooth four-cylinder engine didn't just scream, it lasted. Owners regularly put 100,000 miles on these bikes with basic maintenance, something that modern high-compression engines loaded with electronics struggle to match. Another hidden truth? The Z1 was an engineering flex for Kawasaki. They secretly developed it while Honda was basking in the success of the CB750. By the time Honda's competitors realized what Kawasaki was cooking, the Z1 had already set a new gold standard. It wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a statement that Japan had officially overtaken Europe in performance engineering. And while modern sport bikes demand premium fuel, constant servicing, and expensive ECU checks, the Z1 could be kept alive in a garage with hand tools and a repair manual. That self-sufficiency is a big reason why enthusiasts still hunt for them today. Restored examples easily fetch $20,000, $30,000, with pristine originals hitting six figures at auctions. The Z1 also reminds us of a lesson modern riders often forget. More electronics don't always mean more control. With just good geometry, predictable suspension, and a solid chassis, the Z1 gave riders confidence without needing traction control, ABS, or ride modes. It was pure riding, raw, direct, and unforgettable. Think the Z1 was the ultimate Japanese muscle? The next bike proves that simplicity, not size, is what really makes a motorcycle timeless. And it's a design that's been running for over 80 years. Bike number 7. Royal Enfield Bullet, 1932 present. The immortal workhorse. If there's one bike that proves longevity beats flashy upgrades, it's the Royal Enfield Bullet. First introduced in the 1930s, the Bullet is the world's longest-running production motorcycle model. And here's the truth. While modern bikes brag about advanced electronics and fuel injection, the Bullet's timeless simplicity keeps it more practical for real-world riders, especially in developing countries. Why? Because it's built like a tank. The early Bullets ran single-cylinder air-cooled engines ranging from 250 cubic centimeters to 500 cubic centimeters. Not impressive on paper, but what mattered was their torque and ruggedness. Farmers, soldiers, and commuters trusted them to haul loads, cross rivers, and survive brutal road conditions where modern bikes would choke. Even today, you'll find Bullets from the 1950s and 60s still running daily in India, Pakistan, and beyond. Here's something no modern bike ad will tell you. Electronics are a liability in harsh environments. Fuel injectors clog, sensors fail, ECUs burn out. But the Bullet's carbureted engine could be stripped, cleaned, and rebuilt by a roadside mechanic with a wrench and a hammer. That's why, decades later, it's still the go-to motorcycle in rural areas where breakdowns aren't an inconvenience. They're life-threatening. And let's talk about cost. While modern bikes depreciate rapidly, old Bullets often hold or even increase in value because they're so collectible. A well-kept 1960s or 70s Bullet can easily fetch $6,000 to $10,000 today, and military editions go even higher. Meanwhile, a modern commuter bike loses 30% of its value in the first year. But perhaps the biggest myth the Bullet destroys is that classic means outdated. Royal Enfield still sells updated versions of the Bullet, and while they've added fuel injection and ABS for regulations, the core design is nearly identical to its World War II era ancestors. That continuity is unmatched in motorcycling history. The lesson here? Durability beats complexity. Modern bikes may tempt you with TFT screens and ride modes, but when the going gets tough, the simple, slow, and steady Bullet keeps rolling, just as it has for over 8 decades. If you thought a rugged single like the Bullet was impressive, wait until you see the next machine. It proved that small, lightweight classics could pack more fun and freedom than today's over-engineered giants. Bike number 6, Yamaha RX100, 1985. The pocket rocket that modern commuters can't match. If there's one bike that created legends in South Asia, it's the Yamaha RX100. Launched in the mid-1980s, it quickly became the go-to machine for riders who wanted speed, style, and reliability in a small, affordable package. And here's the hidden truth. Even with all the so-called advanced commuter bikes today, none of them capture the magic or the practicality of the RX100. On paper, the RX100 looks modest. A 98 cubic centimeters, 2-stroke single-cylinder engine producing around 11 horsepower. But here's where numbers mislead. The bike weighed only 209 pounds, giving it an unbelievable power-to-weight ratio for its class. Riders nicknamed it the Mini Missile because it could out-accelerate much larger bikes up to 80 kilometers per hour. Modern 125 cubic centimeters commuters like the Honda CB750 or Suzuki Hayate, they may sip less fuel, but they feel sluggish compared to the RX100's explosive 2-stroke kick. Maintenance was another secret to its success. The RX100 had a reputation for being almost indestructible. The 2-stroke engine had fewer moving parts, which meant easy overhauls and cheap spares. Even today, mechanics across India and Pakistan know this bike inside out. Try repairing a modern commuter with electronic fuel injection and sensors. You'll be stuck at the workshop waiting for expensive parts. But beyond performance, the RX100 was a cultural icon. It became the bike of choice for young riders, office commuters, and even police departments. Its simple design, lightweight build, and thrilling sound made it a machine that represented freedom on a budget. And unlike modern commuters that lose half their value in 3 years, RX100s have become collector's items, fetching $2,000, $5,000 depending on condition. That's more than double their original price. The myth this bike destroys is simple. Bigger doesn't always mean better. For many riders, the RX100's raw fun and dependability still outshine today's refined but soulless commuter bikes. It proves that performance isn't about displacement or gadgets. It's about the connection between rider and machine. Do you think the RX100 was impressive? Our next pick takes small bike brilliance even further. It's the classic that proved motorcycles could be lightweight, stylish, and endlessly customizable. Bike number 5, Honda CG125, 1976. The everyday legend that outlasts modern tech. If there's one motorcycle that defines reliability for millions of riders, it's the Honda CG125. First introduced in 1976, the CG wasn't built to win races or turn heads. It was built to survive anything. And decades later, it still proves that durability and simplicity beat the fancy tech of today's commuter bikes. Why was it built? Honda designed the CG125 specifically for markets where roads were rough, fuel was dirty, and maintenance options were limited. The result was a 124 cubic centimeters air-cooled four-stroke engine so tough that some examples have run over 500,000 kilometers with only routine servicing. Compare that with modern commuters full of sensors, catalytic converters, and fuel injectors. They can't handle bad fuel or neglect the way a CG125 can. Another hidden truth, the CG's pushrod engine design was intentional. Unlike overhead cam systems that require precision maintenance, the CG used simple, rugged engineering that could be serviced by roadside mechanics anywhere in the world. That's why it became the bike of choice in countries like Pakistan, Brazil, and Nigeria. Even today, it's one of the most common sights on the road. Cost efficiency was another unbeatable factor. The CG delivered 60-70 kilometers per liter fuel economy, and spare parts were dirt cheap. Modern commuters may promise similar mileage, but the repair bills from failed electronics, EFI issues, or cracked plastic panels easily wipe out those savings. With a CG, you kept it running with basic tools and a few dollars. But perhaps the biggest lesson is resale value. Unlike modern 125s that depreciate to scrap within 10 years, CG 125s often retain their value or even appreciate, especially older Japanese-built or early Pakistani models. Collectors and daily riders alike still hunt for clean examples, proving that practicality never goes out of style. The myth the CG 125 bus is simple. Modern commuters are not always an upgrade. In fact, many are designed for planned obsolescence, forcing you to replace instead of repair. The CG 125 proves that a bike designed with honesty and simplicity can outlive generations of flashy but fragile newcomers. Think the CG 125 was the king of practicality? The next pick shows how a classic could blend lightweight fun with engineering brilliance, creating a riding experience no modern replacement has matched. Bike number 4, Suzuki GT750, 1971, the water-cooled beast that beat modern overheating. You've probably heard modern bike ads brag about liquid cooling like it's some brand new breakthrough. But here's the myth. Suzuki was already doing it in 1971 with the legendary GT750, better known as the Water Buffalo in the US and the Kettle in the UK. This was the world's first mass-produced water-cooled motorcycle, and it proved that sometimes the old tech did it better. At its core was a 738 cubic centimeters two-stroke, three-cylinder engine making 67 horsepower. That might not sound huge compared to today's liter-class monsters, but here's the truth. The GT750's smooth, torquey power delivery made it faster and friendlier than many bigger bikes of its era. Top speed? Around 110-115 miles per hour, with effortless cruising at highway speeds. Something most modern 650 cubic centimeters commuters still struggle to do comfortably. The real magic, though, was in the cooling system. Air-cooled bikes of the 1970s often overheated in traffic or under heavy loads, but the GT750's liquid cooling kept temperatures steady. Even now, riders praise how consistent it feels in long-distance touring, while modern bikes with compact radiators and complex electronics often run hot in city traffic. Suzuki solved that problem over 50 years ago. Another little-known fact, the GT750 was also among the first Japanese bikes to feature dual front disc brakes from 1973 onward, offering braking confidence well ahead of its time. Compare that with today's obsession with ABS and traction control. The GT750 showed that strong mechanical systems often matter more than layers of electronic safety nets. And then there's durability. Despite being a two-stroke, the water cooling system and robust build meant GT750 engines could last well over 60,000 miles with proper care. That kind of longevity is rare for modern performance-oriented bikes, which often need expensive rebuilds after heavy use. Today, restored GT750s fetch $10,000, $20,000, and they're still considered some of the smoothest touring-capable classics ever made. The lesson? Don't believe the hype that every modern feature is new. Sometimes, the best ideas were already perfected decades ago. If you thought a water-cooled two-stroke was wild, wait till you meet our next classic. It's the little twin that taught the world less weight, more fun, and it still embarrasses modern bikes with twice the horsepower. Bike number 3. Honda CB400F 1975. The lightweight 4 that outsmarts modern middleweights. When people talk about the sweet spot in motorcycles, they usually mean middleweights. Bikes around 400, 500 cubic centimeters that balance power and control. But here's what most riders don't realize. Honda nailed that formula perfectly back in 1975 with the CB400F Supersport, and to this day, no modern middleweight quite captures its magic. The CB400F ran a 408 cubic centimeters inline 4, producing a modest 37 horsepower. On paper, that's less than today's Honda CBR 500R or Kawasaki Ninja 400. But here's the difference. The CB400F weighed just 392 pounds wet. That meant it felt agile, nimble, and far more connected than heavier, gadget-filled modern bikes. Riders often describe it as telepathic. You thought about leaning, and it leaned. But what really made the CB400F legendary was its engineering honesty. The engine was silky smooth, revving up to 10,000 RPM, and the iconic 6-into-1 swooping exhaust gave it a soundtrack that modern muffled bikes can't touch. It wasn't about brute force, it was about character, finesse, and joy. Another hidden truth. Honda marketed the CB400F as a bike for everyday riders, not racers. That meant it was affordable, easy to maintain, and fuel efficient, often delivering over 50 miles per gallon. Compare that with today's middleweights that push riders toward higher insurance, expensive electronics, and premium-priced accessories. The CB400F proved that simplicity could still deliver smiles per mile. Collectors know the value. Clean examples now sell for $7,000, $12,000, with rare all-original models going much higher. And while modern 400 cubic centimeters bikes depreciate the moment they leave the showroom, the CB400F continues to gain value every year. Most importantly, the CB400F busts a big myth, that you need more horsepower to have fun. Modern riders often chase 100-plus horsepower machines, but ask anyone who's ridden a CB400F, they'll tell you this little Honda still delivers more pure enjoyment than bikes with double or triple the output. If you thought the CB400F proved that small can be mighty, just wait for the next part. Our next pick is a classic V-twin that showed how to build raw power and bulletproof reliability long before modern cruisers even existed. Bike number 2, Harley-Davidson XR750, 1970. The race-bred legend that outlasted modern track toys. If there's one motorcycle that proves racing DNA makes a machine timeless, it's the Harley-Davidson XR750. Launched in 1970 for flat-track racing, it wasn't just another Harley. It was the most successful race bike in AMA history. And here's the kicker. Even today, no modern race replica bike has a record that comes close. At its heart was a 748 cubic centimeters, 45-degree V-twin tuned for flat-out dirt oval performance. It made around 82 horsepower in racing trim, which doesn't sound massive by today's standards, but here's the truth. The XR750 weighed just 295 pounds dry. That gave it explosive acceleration and agility that modern race bikes struggle to match without layers of electronics. What really set it apart was reliability under punishment. Flat-track racing is brutal. Engines run at full throttle for minutes at a time. Bikes are slid sideways at 100 miles per hour, and crashes are frequent. While many modern sport bikes need constant electronic checks and expensive rebuilds, the XR750 was designed to be stripped, serviced, and raced again within days. That simplicity kept it dominating for over 40 years. Another hidden truth, the XR750 wasn't just a track weapon, it became a cultural icon. Evel Knievel famously used it for his record-setting stunts, cementing it in pop culture history. Riders loved it because it wasn't about fancy gadgets. It was raw mechanical honesty. No traction control, no ride modes, just skill, courage, and the machine. Modern race replicas like the Yamaha R6 or Kawasaki ZX6R may boast higher horsepower, but they also demand constant tuning, premium fuel, and electronics that mask mistakes. The XR750 proved that lightweight engineering and rider skill matter more than overcomplicated technology. Today, XR750s are prized collector's items, often selling for $25,000, $50,000 depending on provenance. Some even fetch six figures if they carry racing history. Meanwhile, modern supersports depreciate rapidly and are often outdated in just 5 years. The myth this bike destroys is that modern racing bikes are automatically better. The XR750's 4 decades of dominance say otherwise. It wasn't just competitive, it was untouchable. Think a Harley being a race king is surprising? Wait until you see the #1 pick. It's the classic that didn't just challenge modern bikes, it completely redefined what a motorcycle could be, and riders are still chasing its formula today. Bike number 1, BMW R80 GS, 1980, the adventure pioneer that modern ADV bikes still copy. Adventure bikes are one of the hottest segments today. Companies brag about traction control, ABS, electronic suspension, and endless gadgets. But here's the myth. All those innovations trace back to one classic, the BMW R80 GS, launched in 1980. And 4 decades later, many riders argue it's still better than today's tech-heavy ADV giants. The R80 GS was revolutionary. It combined a 797 cubic centimeters air-cooled boxer twin, 50 horsepower, 41 pound-feet of torque, with long travel suspension and shaft drive. That combination had never been done before. It wasn't just a street bike with knobbies. It was a machine built to conquer both highways and rugged trails with equal confidence. What really made it timeless was simplicity. Weighing just 410 pounds dry, it was lighter than modern adventure bikes like the BMW R1250 GS, over 550 pounds. That weight difference mattered. Riders could pick it up after a fall, navigate tight trails, and still cruise comfortably at 100 kilometers per hour. Modern ADV bikes often feel like SUVs on 2 wheels, powerful, yes, but intimidating and overloaded. Another hidden truth, the R80 GS dominated the Paris-Dakar Rally, the toughest endurance race in the world. Riders like Hubert Auriol and Gaston Rahier won multiple titles on it, proving its reliability in the harshest deserts. Compare that to today's ADV machines, which often rely on fragile electronics and expensive components that can fail in remote areas. And here's the kicker. Maintenance was straightforward. The boxer twin design gave easy access to the heads, and the shaft drive eliminated messy chain upkeep. Riders in Africa, Asia, and South America trusted the R80 GS because it didn't need a laptop or specialized tools to keep going. Today, clean examples fetch $15,000, $25,000, and BMW's entire GS line is still built on the DNA of this one bike. The irony? Many riders who've owned both say the old R80 GS feels more balanced, more fun, and more trustworthy than the modern GS models loaded with rider aids. The myth this bike busts is simple. More technology doesn't always mean more adventure. Sometimes, less is more. The R80 GS gave riders pure freedom, lightweight, reliable, and capable, without the complexity and cost of today's adventure machines.